Can you hear me?
Amy,
Oh, I'm a busy man.
that was my son.
Okay, I thought it was like, some NBA calling.
Yeah, right. No, that was my son. He's looking for something. He and his friends are going to Great America today. So,
Shadow Day's going to Great America with her daughter today.
oh, really?
I just
Oh,
said I'd go with you if I didn't have this podcast to do.
no,
I had other plans. I have to go after this.
it's
It's
going to
funny.
be busy today with all the kids
Oh,
out of school.
yes. And it's
No,
just
thank
already a
you.
busy day. I had a no event day yesterday except the marathon. And today I'm like,
Yeah. So you ran the marathon yesterday?
no, I didn't. I ran after friends, but I feel like the real MVPs are people that run from all over the city to see their friends. I only went to one spot, but
Oh, yeah.
they're like running 6 different checkpoints and stuff, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, we found that the hack for Great America is to go on Mother's Day.
Oh, perfect, because moms don't want to go.
They don't want to go. Yeah.
That's
So in
awesome.
families, kids don't want to go. Kids they can't go. Whatever. They're with their moms that day.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, we've done that a couple times.
Oh man, I could do a whole show about life hacks with you, I think. So cool.
No, that's all I got. I just won.
Okay. All right. Well, all right, you ready?
Sure.
All right. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Ain't Gonna Be No Stupid. I am here with Coach Jason Rhodes, and we are here with a podcast titled Ain't Gonna Ever Stop Learning. And I'm just going to get right into it because I know that you went to the building of higher learning, college, for the
Yeah.
wrong reasons. Do you want to extrapolate on that?
Well, it's actually I went to the wrong college for the wrong reasons. My senior year of high school, I was actually going to high school in the state of Iowa, and had thought about going to three different places: the University of Iowa, the University of Iowa State, and then Goshen College, where my sister had gone, and my dad had graduated from. It's a small liberal arts college in Goshen, Indiana, and ended up going to Iowa State University, mainly because I had a friend that was going there. It was one of those those decisions in my life that I wasn't really intentional about, um, and didn't think through completely, um, and just did not have a great experience there, and so ended up circuitously getting back to Goshen College, which where I had a great experience.
Well, sometimes that's what they call our favorite mistake. Sometimes our favorite mistake ends up being the best blessing, right?
Yeah, I think that was definitely true in this case. It certainly changed my life. I met my wife there at GC, and a number of lifelong friends.
Excellent.
And I got to do a lot of different things there that I would not have been able to do at a larger
Hmm.
university. Like I worked for the student newspaper. I hosted a radio show with my roommate.
Cool.
Um, yeah, all kinds of different. I acted, like a lot of different things that I wouldn't have done.
Excellent.
Had I just stayed at changed my major, all that
Right.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
you didn't go in to want to be a English teacher, but that's what happened, right? Because I didn't either want to be a teacher, and I fell into that, and I tried to quit twice, and then how many
Just gave in.
decades how many decades later did I finally surrender? But you also started with English teacher, but it was
I was actually a communications major to start. I wanted to be a
same.
journalist.
I
Yeah,
was
I wanted to be
yeah.
a sports journalist. Grew up reading the sports section of the Chicago Tribune every morning, um, and really thought that that's what I wanted to do with my life. Cover a professional or a college sports team, um, and yeah, I didn't feel fulfilled doing
Mhm.
that. I enjoyed it, but ultimately, I think that obviously, I think I made the right choice going into education, but
For sure.
yeah, didn't think that was completely for me, and that was one of the better decisions that I've made, in my life. So
Before we get into coaching talk, and your accolades because it would take the entire 30 minutes. I wanted to talk to you about like English teaching. My argument is always it is so social emotional learning. Would you
Hmm.
not say that's like we read stories, we study characters' motivation, we look at morals of the story, we look at change and dynamics. And I just feel like just the study of literature is social emotional learning. How do you as a counselor use some of your English teaching background?
Well, I always tell my seniors that I'm willing to, read their college essays,
Excellent.
for them, so I could be another set of eyes for them.
Yes.
In addition to, the senior English teachers, I know do a lot of that here. But yeah, I think that English does lend itself to, that SEL component
Hmm.
for certain. I mean, just thinking about some of the books that I taught the most, when I was an English teacher, like To Kill a Mockingbird for
Hmm.
sure,
Hmm.
Romeo and Juliet for sure.
Yeah.
I used to teach this book called, to my freshmen, Hole in My Life. Have you read that one? I've seen
No.
it on some of the, shelves up there
Oh
in your
no, I
in
haven't.
your
I think the reading teachers have all those good books that I haven't read.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that one's just about it's a true story about a kid just kind of like lost,
Hmm.
when he was like after high school, didn't quite know exactly what to do, got himself
Hmm.
involved in some of the wrong things, spent some time in jail, stuff like that, and then kind of
Yeah.
put his life back together after that.
Wouldn't
So,
wouldn't you say that's a big proponent of this never stop learning piece is when you have something that's a tragedy or trauma and you have to get through it and it forces you like failure, loss. It forces you to like dive into the learning part of it, right? Where don't know if everyone does that. How do you inspire people to actually dive into the learning because that's where the strength comes in and that's where the wisdom comes in, right?
well, yeah, like what's that quote? The unexamined life is not worth living, or something
Yep.
like that. I
Yep.
mean, I think that's
Yes.
definitely true. I mean, we're all going to encounter some kind of adversity in our lives. Things are going to go wrong, or not exactly as we planned.
For
And it's
real.
it's about how respond to
Hmm.
that. That's going to
Hmm.
lead to the outcome. We actually talk about that in our team. Like it's
Yeah.
the E plus R equals O. It's the event. That's one thing, but then it's your response to that event that is going to determine the outcome. And that's one of those like little life lessons that you can teach through athletics, but that's also, certainly applicable to anyone's
Yeah.
lives. As you become an adult, there's always stuff that does not go exactly according to plan, and
Yes.
yeah, whether it's some type of trauma or some type of obstacle, or yeah, that stuff happens, and we're always going through it. You don't know
Always.
what somebody's going through, you know.
Always. Yes. And there's always one area of life that isn't copacetic, right? This is all going good, but there's always one. I tried to tell my students that the other day, like, there's always one area of our lives that's like a challenge, and we have to focus more on this. And it's never 100% everything going great. My
Yeah,
dog's
and they don't always believe that because they don't have the experience,
exactly,
accrued that
exactly.
we do, but yeah, that's certainly true.
Exactly. So I want to get into more of the hoops talk. You just mentioned you have a lot of phrases I know that you use. And this one I just noticed on your social media, run, flow, disrupt. Is that something that's your mantra? Or is that just the social
That's
media?
kind of become like our philosophy, um, in our program in terms of how we wanna play the game.
Excellent.
Sue just walked in. So yeah, offensively, we wanna run, we wanna push the pace, we wanna get up and down the floor. Defensively, we wanna try to make the game wicked for the other team and, disrupt things,
Yep.
so what they normally do in practice, we wanna make them do something different, than that, so they're a little bit uncomfortable. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what we try to do here. Yeah.
Really, really good. I know. I'm going to read some of your accolades here. You have repeat, three times repeat conference champions. So your overall record in the last seven seasons, 138 to 64. That's a average of 683. And then you have average wins of 19.7 wins per season. including 11-5 during the COVID year. You had 92 and 35 last 4 full seasons of an average of 23 wins per season. You have 16 all-conference players in the last 5 seasons. You held opponents to 51.5 points per game, and you averaged 62 points per game. And 2 conference players of the year in 2020 and 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a few of
Yeah,
your
should have had
accolades.
another one last year too, but that's a different story. So
Oh, darn it. Last year, I enjoyed playing, like watching you guys. It's hard to go to one game and not go to another game and another game and another game. And plus, I co-teach with your assistant coach, CA, and
yes, of course.
I did ask him because I've seen such a change in him in the last couple of years. He has
Mhm.
really taken ownership of the classroom and he's so inspirational. He's dropping so much knowledge to these kids on the daily. And I
He's
just
great. Yeah,
always tell them, I'm like, you guys do not know what you have in this teacher in your room
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Do not take it for granted, and he did say your
absolutely.
influence is a lot of it because I know you're always throwing this book at him or that book at him, and I know he doesn't even like to read, but you have inspired him a lot, and I really believe you're a part of that change. So
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great
yeah,
to hear. He's amazing. He does an amazing job with our kids,
yes, so good.
connecting with them and working with them, building relationships with them. Yeah,
Yep, he's
he's a great partner to have in this endeavor for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Now I want to say you like said all that stuff about our record the last 7 years, but you didn't talk about the previous 7 years because this is my 14th year, I believe. So or the previous 6 years. It wasn't always like this here. There was a lot of we had a lot of like tough years
Mm,
where
mm,
I was going through stuff like learning things,
yep,
on the go. We had kind of a good first year here, and then things kind of dropped, and some of that out of my control, but some of it I think within my control too. And so I had to learn a lot of lessons uh,
mm,
over the course of that time. And so, like the title of the way that we've titled this podcast or this episode today, that's a big part of it. I had to learn a lot of stuff. I had to relearn things, change the way that I was doing things. Um,
excellent,
yeah, and I'm still learning.
excellent. I mean, you're like a macadamia nut. Do you know that how long it takes for them to? They're under the dirt for like 7 years.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's what I thought of when you started talking about that. So that's wild. Yeah, like I always think like when I played basketball, age 4th grade till senior year, um, I was like a natural talent, as they say, but I also know
Oh,
with that though, with that comes less work ethic as an athlete. And I think
yeah.
there's people on the court that maybe work harder and
Mhm.
maybe are better. What do you like as a coach? I mean, what do you do with either the one that works really hard, the natural talent, and ever do the two meet?
Well, a couple things come to mind when you talk about that. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, as a coach, but my favorite players are the ones that I feel like came the close to reaching their potential, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Some kids just naturally have more potential than others.
Hmm.
Um, and so if they can tap into as much as they have, to give, um, those are kind of the kids that I really really love coaching. Like Ibrahim Samra is a great
Oh, I
Ibrahim.
love him. He's one of the podcast guests.
Yeah,
He's so
exactly.
good.
Yeah, great example of that.
I know, right? Mm.
And he was one of our early guys, but he just he was like I think he was like on the freshman B team. Kind of an afterthought, and then he just kept working, and eventually became a really good player for us, and just a great teammate, great leader.
Yes, great attitude.
Yeah. The other piece I think is like I don't we don't try to put a ceiling on any kid, so who knows how good you can be.
Right. Right.
So why don't you try to find out,
Exactly.
you
So
know?
should I go play basketball again? Is what you're saying.
Hey,
I
WNBA that's a big deal now.
I
So
know.
you should get back in the game.
I did try to shoot around about a year ago and I was just hitting air ball after air ball after air ball. And CA goes, it's probably your legs. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I started
Probably
doing
right.
squats. I'm
That's
doing
right.
squats in the classroom
I
now.
told you about the
And I
yoga.
yeah, but also my mental game, when I played tennis in college, my mental game was such a mess. And well, how do you work with the mental game of of an athlete?
I've done a lot, like a lot of reading on it. I'm trying to always learn more. Have you read The Inner Game of Tennis?
Yes, I hear every athlete reads it no matter what sport, right?
Yeah, yeah, so good, so good. I heard or I read something about Steve Kerr.
Mm,
I think maybe Phil Jackson gave it to him, or somebody gave it to him when he was a player, and a lot of different like tips in there for how to kind of get out of your head.
yeah,
You know, yeah, I think it's one thing we used to do is like we've kind of gotten away from it, but like visualization,
mhm,
pregame.
yeah,
We right now we kind of call it like the getting locked in.
yeah, yeah. We
So
say that word in class. Yeah,
yeah, but I think it's different for everybody. I just
yeah,
don't think like one size fits all as far as that's concerned. Everybody kind of has a different pregame process, but you have
yes,
to kind of find it yourself.
mm-hmm,
So that's why we kind of got away from that. But I think that that can be valuable.
yeah,
I think just like having conversations with kids about it. I think that film study can be really, really helpful. Just like, hey, this is look at how you did you know that you look like this, when you make a
yeah,
mistake,
yeah.
or like having a um, mistake response like mechanism, like something that you just like, whether it's like you just clap your hands or something like that, and then you just move on to whatever the next play is.
Oh,
Like
that's
that's
good. That's good. Like that's like a brain thing, isn't it? Just clap your hands, snap you out of it, or whatever.
yeah, yeah, something like some people have like rubber bands, like they'll just
Yeah,
snap the rubber band or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah. Oh,
like
that's
a
good.
cue to like move on to the next play, and that is something that we say quite a bit, like next play, like, okay, that didn't go right, or that, the ref made a bad call or
Right.
whatever.
Things
We
out
got
of
to
your
move on to
control.
the next thing. Correct. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Ooh. I know what else I got here? Do you want to give away some of these two? If these are any secrets, we don't want to give away, of course, but two shoot away shooting guns. What does that mean? Player development?
Oh, well, we have a couple of they're just like shooting machines.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's just a way for kids to get a lot of reps up without a rebounder.
perfect.
Yeah, sometimes I don't want to lean on them too much
Yeah.
because I think there's a lot of value in like kids like rebounding and passing to their
Yep.
teammates as well.
Yep.
Just like reading the ball off the rim or like,
Yes.
passing. So we use them quite a bit. I think more importantly, just the idea of player development. We try to be really, really good at that. We don't
Yeah.
have a whole lot of polished diamonds here.
Yeah. But you
You know,
start
when
them
they
young with the
when they
camp.
yeah, right, right. When they walk through our doors though, they gotta develop, over the course of their 4 years if we're gonna continue to compete at the level that we are, and so,
Yeah.
we try to do that in everything that we do, and practice is just another 2 hours of player development in addition to, the offensive and defensive things that we're working on a continuous basis, so
I love that. It takes a lot of creativity, which I think is the highest form of thinking, creativity. So, as a coach, as someone who's always learning, would you call yourself a creative?
I think that like the practice floor is probably my creative outlet,
Yeah.
now, or like the game of basketball. When I was younger, it was like writing or like poetry. I did some acting, like I said, in high
Yeah.
school and college and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think like my wife is a graphic designer. She's a creator.
Cool.
My
Cool.
daughter's a musical theater
That's right.
major. She's an actor, and you know, both of my sons have some creative gifts as well,
That's great.
whether they use them or
Right.
realize they do or not,
Right. 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 I really
Uh,
think tapping into that is key.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Good. Couple more questions I have, and then I want to get into the last two thoughts or the three, two, one. But you said reading is
Mhm.
a big one. And I know billionaires say that's one of the number one things they've done to become billionaires is be readers. What do
Yeah,
you
I've seen that
say
too.
about reading? Yeah, reading in general. Like, what do you, or to the non-readers of the world right now, what would you say?
Well, I think reading can mean different things, and my wife has kind of brought me around on this one. I used to kind of scoff at like the audio book, that's not really reading, but I think that actually probably in like 10 or 15 years, and you see things moving this direction already, like people are going to be listening to books a lot more than they are actually,
Yes,
physically reading, turning the page or
yes.
whatever. I just think that there's a lot of value to be had there that people overlook, you
Hmm.
know. I've learned a lot from reading books and made connections in my mind. And it doesn't just have to be a book, like it could
Right.
be an article. Like that's kind of what's sad to me about the way that journalism has gone. Like Sports Illustrated doesn't exist anymore except for online. People read their
Mhm.
news online.
Yeah.
Like I said, I grew up reading the Chicago Tribune every morning. Am I going to do that on my phone now? I don't. I guess I try, but
Yeah.
it's just a little different somehow. Where we get our information, I think, is so important, whether or not it's
Yeah.
valid. Like I have heard a couple kids recently talk about like they're like they've gotten some information about college through TikTok, and that kind of I don't know how to feel about that exactly.
I call it TikTok University. I learn a lot on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah, but like who is it that's
What side of TikTok? It depends what you're on, though. Like, there's a
right?
different algorithms, right?
Right.
Is there anything you refuse to learn? I'll
Um,
give you an example. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to learn how to change a tire. And
Yeah.
I did the New York Times connections this morning only because of Friday's game. And then
Mhm,
there's a spelling bee. So I struggled through it just because of this podcast to feel what it felt like to try to learn something new. And I
mhm.
will never go back to that game again, even though I got like 12 words. I just was like, this is a waste of my time. But it maybe
Well,
not. Maybe it went good for my brain, but I
yeah.
personally don't want to learn that. So I put some shelves together the other day by myself. I wish there was someone here to do it for me. So I guess there's like, yes, I can do it, but is there times where you're just like, I just don't have the capacity or want to do or learn this? Because if you're saying you ain't gonna never ever stop learning, I'm just wondering if the opposite is in effect as well.
I mean, there's certain things that I don't really have an interest in learning more about, like, for example, like politics,
Yep. Same.
I mean, I follow it, but I'm
You
not
don't even have to follow it, and you get enough the friends curate the information for you. You don't even have to follow it.
right,
You realize that?
right.
You could just shut yourself out completely, and you will always hear it somehow. So that's where
Yeah,
I'm at with
and
that.
I think it's okay to, to not wanna learn about something,
Yeah.
at this especially at, like, the you know, our point in our lives, like,
Right, right,
we
right.
know ourselves, or hopefully we know ourselves well enough to know, like, that's an area I don't wanna get into or
Exactly.
whatever. Like, I don't for me, like, I don't like, I love watching movies, but, like, horror films, I kinda
Oh,
like
done. I don't
yeah, just
I draw the line completely at those as well. That's an
yeah,
open door, man. You don't want to bring
yeah,
those spirits into your room. No way. No
yeah.
way. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you have making college decisions. If you can get some tips for that, and then we'll end with our 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, so I was just writing a couple things down here
Yeah.
earlier today. There's so many factors when it comes to making college decisions, and I don't think there's like a perfect way to to make that decision. But I do always tell our students to get themselves on campus. Um, it's amazing sometimes when I ask, how many of you have been on a college visit or been on a college campus,
Uh-huh.
not necessarily like a visit or anything, that they don't raise their hands, and could be a community college or anywhere. Just because I grew up, like going to college football games or going to college basketball games or visiting my siblings or whatever. But I know not everybody's situation is like that. I just think like there's a lot of kids can gain a lot of like inspiration from being
Hmm.
on a college campus and kind
Yeah.
of looking around and being like, oh wow, like I can really
Yeah.
see myself in this environment.
Yes.
I think meeting people in the program of study that you want to go into is really valuable, whether it's students or faculty.
Great advice.
Just, kind of seeing, you know, if you vibe with them, you know,
Hmm.
if this is somebody like I can work with, or I can see myself being in a class with this person. Um, for me, like I said, I went to a big university. There were some good things about that, but I hadn't thought it through completely and realized like, no, I would like to go to a smaller school is better for me because I have a lot of different interests that I can explore, there
Yeah.
rather than just kind of getting shoehorned into one area
Yeah.
at a big university. So, obviously, the finances come into play in a big way as well, and it's tough to, I think, make that evaluation. If the return on my investment here, if I have to spend a little bit more money,
Hmm.
going to this school versus that school that might, give me a better financial aid package. So yeah, they're tough decisions. And so I just, when I talk to students about it, just try to make sure that we unpeel all those layers and talk about all those factors. And some kids have a clearer idea than others.
Yeah. Good.
Uh, but yeah, I just, I one question I ask people that I, meet, or that I know a little bit, like, what were your interactions with your high school counselor, or your guidance counselor, as we used to be called, and some of them didn't always have those conversations, and so it took them a little bit longer
Yeah.
to figure things out. So just trying to be that person for our kids if they need that assistance.
Excellent. I always said to you, I run into you for like maybe what, 15 years I've known you. And I don't remember maybe one time in 15 years I've had to deal with a shared student where I had a problem or whatever. And I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I know you keep saying, let's keep it that way, but I wonder if it's just like the Jedi mind tricks that you have going on with your alpha, or if it's,
No, I don't think so. I don't think
you just
so.
have the best alpha, right?
Maybe so. I don't know. I don't know.
But anyway, I appreciate that. So let's get into the last part of this program, which I told you is a 3, 2, 1.
Hmm.
You get to pick the
Yeah.
categories. You get to
Yeah.
pick the categories and impart your final thoughts to the audience.
Yeah. Tough one. Let's see. I wrote some stuff down here.
Great.
Um, so we talked about reading, so I'll give you three authors.
Great.
So my favorite author currently is Peter Heller.
Peter Heller.
Yeah, so he a couple. I've read, I think, everything that he's written except for his nonfiction stuff. Uh, he's written books called The Dog Stars, The River, The Last Ranger. So he sets his books mostly like in the wild, or in like a natural environment, and he just has a way of writing that I really
Mm.
enjoy.
Hmm.
Kind of like some hard boiled stuff as well.
Yeah.
Um, Emily St. John Mandel. Did you ever watch Station 11? That show?
No.
It was on HBO. So I read this book of hers, Station 11, during the pandemic, and it's about a pandemic. Um,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. So and got into her and
Well,
her
she
books.
wrote it before COVID, and was it
Oh yeah,
pretty accurate of what you were experiencing while
I
reading?
mean, a much worse version,
Okay.
obviously,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kind of, interesting. Like, I had this book on my Kindle, I hadn't read it, and then I just started reading it, and I was like, "Whoa." So
Nice.
we got into that,
Okay.
and her characters are kinda, like, indirectly related in her novels. So I've read 3 of her books, really enjoy her stuff, and then, Colson Whitehead, uh, wrote The Underground Railroad, Nickel Boys, Harlem Shuffle. A couple of those have
Mm.
been made. I think Nickel Boys is a film that's coming out soon if it hasn't already.
Nice.
Underground Railroad was a show, that was well done. So those are my 3 authors. You asked what's 2. Let's see here. Uh, 2 podcasts. I'll give you 2 podcasts. Um, so Smart List, that's one that my wife and I like to listen to. You know that one?
I do. I don't listen to many. Isn't that funny?
Okay, yeah. So that's cool because they're funny. Obviously, it's Sean Hayes and Jason Bateman and Will Arnett. The latter two were in Arrested Development. It's a great
Yes,
show,
great show.
comedy. So their banter I think is pretty funny, but then they also have really interesting guests on, often like actors talking about their background or their craft or whatever. That's pretty good. And then I also like, I mean, I listen to a bunch of like basketball podcasts or coaching
For
podcasts, but
sure.
I also like to take a break from that stuff every once in a while. So the Big Picture is another one that's like just a movie podcast.
Okay.
So really enjoy that. And then one thing that's changed my life, and we've talked about this, it's yoga.
Yes.
So
You do it yourself.
yeah, so we have like Apple Fitness on our Apple TV at home.
Mhm, mhm.
And I think we pay a monthly fee, but they have a bunch of different yoga instructors, and you can do like 10 minutes, as short as 10 minutes or as long as 45 minutes. And I used to have like back issues when I was teaching, especially like my back would lock up.
Wow.
So, I learned to stretch and stuff, but yoga's been really good for just for like my mobility.
Yep, yep,
As you
use
get
your
older, and I have a job that I'm sitting a lot,
yeah.
right? And so I can get tight.
Yes, use your body
So
weight, get stronger, right?
yeah, exactly. Like different, it's not easy
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
it's gotten easier the more that I've done it,
yeah.
but like my back pain is almost like non-existent now.
That's
So like just
excellent.
like my quality of life has
E
improved, as a result.
excellent,
So
excellent, especially our age, as you say. I'm a little older,
right, right.
but I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Coach Rhodes. It's been a pleasure finally to have you on the pod, and I appreciate you imparting the wisdom that you have. We can find you at Oaklawn Hoops. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Hope I see you're at school, so you
Yeah.
must be coaching today.
No,
Oh,
just got a workout in. That's all.
okay,
And this
okay.
is it's like it'd be difficult to do this at home.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be a better place to do it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in for that.
Yeah.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good, Amy. Thank you.
Bye.